Hello, I'm Andrew Croshow. One of my favorite family history stories was my story of my great-great-great-grandfather, Robert Coleman Poole. He and his family lived in South Carolina, and one day back in the 1860s, he was recovering from typhoid fever, and he had a dream or a vision of sorts. And in his dream, he saw two men coming to visit him, and they introduced themselves. And so it was about a week later that his son Tom was out traveling on horseback. He ran across two men who asked him if they could stay the night if they had something that they could eat. And so he said, well, if you come over to my father's house, you can eat and stay with us. And so they came. And Robert Coleman Poole was on the porch when they came up, and he stood up to greet them. And as they came up, he said, I know you. You're Elder Cragen and you're Elder Bingham, and you come from Salt Lake City to baptize me into the Mormon Church. And so, of course, they were LDS missionaries, and one of them said, sir, we've never met you before. We're new in this territory. And he said, but I've seen you, and I know who you are. So I always thought that was a cool story, the reason why he and his family joined the church.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Hale, and one of the reasons that Hale even means anything to me as my family name is the stories that my grandma used to tell us about our ancestors and where we came from, and the stories of how they joined the church, came west, and built their families, and built actually the Salt Lake Valley based on their testimony. And it's interesting when you think of family history work because there's a lot of work that goes into it. But when I think about how I can talk to my children about the work ethic in our family or the legacy of faith in our family, because my grandma did that work and because she has those stories and because she shared them with us, it's really meaningful and powerful to me.
Hi, my name's Jared Hansen, and one of the things that I really love about family history is the stories that you learn about your ancestors, how they came here to the United States, and it just gives me a sense of identity. And also, it really makes me appreciate what I have when I think about all of the sacrifices that my ancestors made. On my father's side, I've learned about stories through family history that either I've done or that others have done before me. But these stories include one person who was my great-great-great-grandmother who came over when she heard about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she was over in Scandinavia as a young lady around age 12, 13. She wanted to join. She stowed away on a boat, was a stowaway, came over all the way over to the New England area, and then she made it over to Illinois. She didn't have any money on her. She didn't speak English, but somehow she got a handcart, and she pulled it all the way across to Utah by herself in this handcart train in the late 1850s, not speaking a word of English until she joined up with some friends that were up in Brigham City. And then she met her husband-to-be. On the other side, on my mother's side, you have relatives from Italy, and some of those were actually trying to escape the mob. So you have one individual who I learned was a godfather in the mafia who wanted a change of life and who escaped the mob by hiding his family and stealing away to the United States. And so seeing these very different paths of families that came here, but all searching for freedom and all making such great sacrifices so that each of us can just have such great lives here. It really was just a wonderful thing, and so I'm thankful for family history.
I'm Clint Bushman. I am doing my family history. I found a line that goes back to some of the oldest Jewish families in America since before the Revolution, the Franks. And their line goes back to rabbis going back to the 15th century in Morocco after the expulsion of the Jews. But it all hinges on one name, who I found out is wrong. That I found out that that Esther Franks is not the son of David Franks, the famous kind of bad guy loyalist in the Revolution. She's the daughter of Andrew Franks, who was a German guy who came to America indentured and has a christening date. So I found out that the big line of my family history didn't exist. But what's cooler than having famous ancestors is actually knowing who your ancestors are. That's it. That's my whole story.